Gang, welcome back to another video slash podcast. Today we're actually going to be talking about a very important subject, that is imposter syndrome, how to work around it, if it's even a bad thing. Okay, I've written down 5 tips, so we're not going to waste any more of your time. We're just going to get right into it. So tip number 1 is ignore social proof from mentors, including my own. Okay, this is one thing that I'll talk to one-to-one individuals about. One thing that I'll talk to people in the training hub is, effectively, if I'm posting about wins and stuff like that, understand that that's me marketing. Don't look at that as, well, they're there, why the fuck aren't I here? We're all on this journey, or all on different journeys, right? So some people's businesses explode. Some people's businesses are a little bit slower. It's okay, okay? If I post someone and they've gained like fucking 30 clients in the first month, you just don't know who they are. You don't know their niche, their following. They might have like 100,000 followers and you have like 12. Like, you're not going to get that rate of return right off the bat, right? So stop comparing yourself. You're not even in the same league as that. And I mean that respectfully, by the way. You can't compare yourself there. Okay. Also, like, there could be a coach who's been doing this for like 12 years, but has only just started to learn about marketing. Then all of a sudden they've got like 400 fucking transformations. They can just post. Whereas you could be at the start of your journey. You don't have that. So your rate of return or just rate of progress might just be a little slower. Also, even if you get 2 businesses exactly the same, there's going to be different rates of return, right? There is with anything. Okay. So I suppose like tip number 1 is ignore social proof. Like, if you just see social proof on Instagram, take it as, oh, that's cool, not why isn't that me? That's the biggest thing I'd say with that one. Tip 2, compare 3 times, get rid. So if you compare yourself to a person 3 times and you come away from each and every single comparison with a negative outlook on yourself, either mute, ignore, or block. You're on this earth for a very short amount of time. So if someone or something is putting you down, delete. That's very simple, right? So yeah, that's probably one of the, if you actually apply that, that's probably one of the biggest tips of them all. Okay. So yeah, you can't compare yourself to someone who you don't see. So yeah. Tip number 3, imposter syndrome is not always a bad thing. Okay, so comparing yourself and wanting to progress is not a bad thing. Now, if you didn't have some element of imposter syndrome, you become complacent. When you become complacent, you no longer want to progress as a business, which means ultimately you just stand still, which means ultimately you will regress. The amount of coaches that think they're Billy Big Bollocks, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? And they think they're the God's gift and they don't need a niche, they don't need a USP, then all of a sudden in 3 or 4 months they're starting to lose clients, their lead gen's fucked. It's because they've become really complacent, okay? So imposter syndrome, to some element, is pretty good. You still have that hunger, you still want to progress, okay? You don't think you're up here, you don't think you're God. So to some element, it's not always a bad thing. Tip number 4 is own your strengths, and then where you're weak, try and progress in that area, right? This builds confidence like this. So just assess where you're good. Like, where are you good at? Like, what are you good at? I'm good at coaching. I'm good at email marketing. I'm good at this element. I'm good at this element. This builds confidence straight away. Where aren't you very good at? I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. Right. Address it head on. Right. I'm not good at marketing. Right. Okay, cool. Address it head on. I'm not good at selling. Address it head on. I'm not good at content creating. Address it head on. If you consistently avoid all of these things, okay, you're consistently going to be comparing yourself to other people who are better at that thing than you, right? But if you work on your weaknesses, you're probably going to be as good, if not better, right? But of course, you can really lean into the things you're really good at, like coaching, for example. A lot of coaches are very good at coaching, right? So that's where your strength is. Fantastic. That builds confidence. At least you're a great coach. Now you've got to learn email marketing in general, you know? Once you start to learn that, then everything together, the business together, becomes a complete package. When it's a complete package, you're less likely to compare yourself to others because you're well aware of your weaknesses. Most people are. so you're not always comparing yourself to other people, because you're addressing weak areas and then you're building a complete business. Okay, you normally compare yourself in elements that you're not very good at, like content creation, for example. You'll compare yourself to other coaches like, oh, their content's sick, mine's shit, but you don't do anything about it, right? So my thing is, it's like, address where you're good at, address where you're not, and then work on the areas that you're not. Because then once you're fantastic at everything, then you don't compare yourself as much, okay? Again, you're still going to have some elements of imposter syndrome, you just have less of it. Last tip is talk, okay? So whether that's to a partner, a friend, whatever, because a lot of the things you tell yourself just aren't true. A lot of the things we tell ourselves in business just simply aren't. They're not true. They're just in here. Or at least just write things down. It'll help a lot, because you normally tell yourself like, oh, I'm shit, I'm no good, stuff like that, but you don't actually address and assess where you've been. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll think they're a prick, they think you're a bastard, but they're comparing themselves like to the here and now. They're not comparing themselves to where they first started. Because if you started like a year ago, you're probably better now than you were a year ago. If you're not, yeah, you're majorly going to have to change something, right? But if you're talking to your partner, a friend, whatever, they're like, well, like, I think you're really good. Like, it kind of gives you that like little bit of confidence, okay? So I'd always talk to someone, or just jot stuff down, or look at where you first started and then compare yourself to now. Because if you extrapolate that, I started a year ago, I'm now here. In a year's time, by definition, by body of evidence, you're going to be better. Okay? So they're kind of like the 4 or 5 tips I'll go through with imposter syndrome. It's not really a well spoken about topic. It's not very sexy, right? But in my opinion, tip 2, compare 3 times and fuck off, like mute them. That's probably going to be the biggest one of the whole video. If this helped, let me know. And yeah, speak soon.